Okay, so this one's gonna be interesting. This one is culture shocked Americans share the things that they didn't realize were so American. This is like from Reddit, right? I, for one, love Reddit. I love scrolling through Reddit. So I thought we'll check this one out together today, you guys. This video is based on like a Reddit thread. It's culture shocked Americans share the things they didn't realize were so American. I love Reddit because you get people's true experiences, individual experiences and stuff like that. So let's get into it. Let me know if you relate to any of these or if you disagree with any of these, and let's get into it. Obviously this is my first reaction. I haven't seen it yet, so I have no idea what's going to be in here, but I think it's going to be interesting, so let's do it.
Americans of Reddit, what is something you didn't realize was typically American until you went abroad? Having your drink constantly refilled at restaurants. I just wanna drink a ton of water, alright. Garbage disposals in sinks. When I moved to the UK, my flatmates asked how in movies people would stick their hands in the sink drain and it'd be ripped apart. I told them about garbage disposals and they were very weirded out. Red plastic cups for parties. So much so that people outside US use them as an accessory to American themed parties.
Indeed, indeed.
I doubt this is restricted to America in any way, but when I studied abroad in the UK, the lack of public drinking laws was a bit of a culture shock. Being able to walk outside with a bottle of beer was very freeing.
Maybe similar
Root
here in
beer
New
is
Zealand.
apparently disgusting and an offense to most of the world's palate.
I hate root
Having
beer.
plenty of free bathrooms around for the public to use.
Oh, sorry, there's a
When I
motorbike
went to
outside, you
Australia,
guys.
I found out very quickly that no one down there roots for a team. They go for a team. So when I said I root for the Red Sox, I got a lot of weird looks. Rooting means effing in Australia. Free public restrooms. When I visited Europe, I thought it was the strangest thing that you had to pay to use a public restroom.
That is true.
There's a big shortage of water fountains once you leave the US, I've noticed. Sugar. When I visited Japan, even some of their sweetest desserts pale in comparison to how much sugar is in American food.
Desserts are very
Not in
sweet.
American. But I can always spot Americans at the airport because they take off their shoes at security,
that's true.
even if it's not required.
Yeah.
Portion sizes. My high school senior trip to London. As a typically ravenous appetite 18-year-old, I couldn't get over how small everything was standard. Dressing like to do stuff like grocery shop. Went to the Netherlands for about 2 weeks, and we never saw anyone dressing
that's that
comfy.
European shiz.
Everyone looked nice, everywhere, at all hours. You'd catch me walking through Walmart at 3 AM and I'm wearing old PJs, whatever shirt I happen to exist in, and I'm probably not wearing socks. I was struck by the extent to which nobody talks to strangers in Northern Europe. Even in big cities in the US, people will talk to each other sometimes in line, on the subway, etc. Not deep conversations, but it isn't weird to make casual conversation. How large grocery stores are here. My wife is not American, and we lived in China, and were in HK all the time. They had large international stores that were great, and she didn't really grasp the size of American grocery stores till our first week in the USA.
True.
And there's 150 feet of cereals on one aisle.
It's crazy.
Being friendly to an extent, I checked in at a hostel and walked into the lounge area where people from all over the world were just chilling. I kinda introduced myself to the whole room, and someone goes, "You're from the States, yeah?" And I'm like, "Yeah, how do you know?" They said, "Only an American will walk into a room of strangers and introduce themselves to everybody."
It's amazing.
My British
We
friend
need more
makes
of
fun
that.
of me for how much cheese I use in my cooking. Doesn't stop her from inhaling my potato casseroles, but there you go. Buying stuff and the cashier putting your items in a plastic or paper bag.
That happens
Went to
sometimes
Germany and
in New
found it
Zealand.
strange they don't bag your items. Everyone just brings their own bag or dumps their stuff in a
usually
backpack.
just use your own.
Measuring
dump your
walking
own
slash
stuff
driving
into the
distance
bag.
in blocks. It's the unit of measure I use most frequently when giving directions.
Really?
The restaurant is 3 blocks away. Go south 1 block, and then 2 blocks west.
Yeah, that's
I live 6
uncommon.
blocks from the grocery store. It wasn't until I studied abroad in England and got a complete blank look when I asked someone how many blocks away the library was that I realized using block as a measurement only makes sense in cities that were largely pre-planned and built on grid system. Aka, not many places outside the US. S'mores. I was in New Zealand having a bonfire on the beach and someone went and grabbed a bag of marshmallows and then everyone just ate them by themselves. And someone from Sweden asked me if s'mores were a real thing or only on TV.
I feel like everyone
was
knows about
flabbergasted.
s'mores. That's so bizarre.
This all could be due in part to the fact other places don't tend to have graham crackers.
We had
Massively wide
other
roads
biscuits that we
lanes.
used.
The whole of Ireland made me feel claustrophobic, but when I got back home the roads felt like way too much wasted space. 24-hour stores. It's weird not being able to buy random shit 4 AM. Cold drinks. Every European country I visited, the drinks would best be described as cool, but definitely not cold like in the US. It is a Japanese culture to always greet someone as a sign of respect, but I feel uneasy that Americans sometimes looks at you and do a half smile while not saying anything. The stereotype about us being loud is true. I never thought of myself as being loud until I went abroad and would hang up the phone after speaking in what I thought was appropriate volume to find everyone around me was staring at me and realized how much more quiet they were
Yeah,
en
this
route.
is true. This is true.
Ask any soldier after multiple deployments what one of the most remarkable things about America, and it would be massive grocery stores. Road trips, at least just jumping in the car and driving a few hours without giving it much thought. I live in a large western state, and it seems at least every other weekend my family and I were in the car traveling for a few hours to see some sight. Going to Mexico or another state. I have relatives in Switzerland and they were going to drive us to the Frankfurt airport, and I was blown away how big of a deal it was to them. My uncle had the car inspected, shopped around for gas, and printed off travel and weather reports. All for a trip my dad would have said, hey, let's do this weekend. In the car, kids. Peanut
That's funny.
butter and jelly sandwiches. On a related note, no, Vegemite and butter are not an adequate substitution. You know who you are. Keeping it on 100% of the time in the summer. Visited Madrid for about a month to see the exchange student we housed, and found that they typically
Americans
only
love the
turn on
icy.
at night to sleep, or when it reaches a damned 105 degree F. Eating a burger and fries with your hands. I just assumed everyone did this. I went to Sweden with my
Sweden, eh?
boyfriend and we stopped at a burger joint. Small local place.
What?
When the chef heard we were American, he immediately wanted us to try a specialty burger he made and tell him what we thought
That's
about
cute.
it. They were all excited when we picked it up with our hands and we realized everyone else in the place was using a fork and knife. Burger was 11
Bougie.
cents. Water pressure. Y'all's showers are like a flower watering pot. I like to feel my shower.
No.
Like, make the pressure strong enough to tear my skin off.
Oh, sure, I
then back
haven't
it off
noticed
like
that.
10%. I grew up in the US and moved to Europe about 10 years ago. I learned quickly to get out of the habit of smiling or saying hello to strangers on the street.
True, true.
I didn't understand why people found it so off-putting at first, because I thought I was simply being polite. A European friend explained that it comes across as funny/untrustworthy and puts people on their guard.
Oh,
It can
wow,
still
that's
be
interesting.
hard sometimes to shake the feeling that I'm being rude by not smiling at everyone I pass by. Here in the States, pregnancy announcements, reveals, baby showers are mainstream, but it's generally a big no-no to bring it up in Kenya.
Really?
My mom found out the hard way. Essentially, asking someone when the baby is due is the equivalent of asking the person when did you and your husband F, which is considered extremely rude. The lady my mom asked was gracious about it, but said if we were not such good friends I would have slapped you. I'm not American, but visit the US a lot, and I tell you, almost all Americans has this habit of giving the half smile look to anyone. That is not just normal anywhere else. Getting to choose from like 50 different types and subtypes of sodas. Hearing commercials advocating you to go to the doctor and demand a prescription for whatever fantasy pill is
That's
new to the
true.
market on the radio like it is no big deal. Going out to a restaurant. In America, you are seated as soon as possible, and then they bring you drinks, appetizers, entree, dessert, and then shake as quick as they possibly can, if it's good service, for a total time of 45 minutes to an hour and a half-ish. Staying past this time is seen as a bit rude. In Europe, going out to eat seemed to be more of an event that you slowly enjoyed for a longer period of time.
Yes, this is
First,
definitely
they
something
bring
I've
you
noticed
drinks
as well.
and an appetizer for the first hour. Then the second hour is the entree and dessert. Then it's more drinks for another half hour or so. I don't know if it's because we were American, but it seemed like the wait staff everywhere we went was annoyed that we were rushing them when we just thought it was bad service and didn't understand the routine. The prices
Understandable.
abroad don't add tax after the fact. You pay what the price shows. No need to figure the tax. Dumb that we do that here. Shorts. I swear there are 14 million people in Istanbul, and I was the only one wearing shorts. Not American. But I found out that having an electric kettle is mandatory in every home like toilet paper or whatever. Canadian for reference.
Oh,
How
yes,
are you?
yes, that's
Being
definite.
used in place of
The
hello even
electric
with
kettle.
strangers.
I don't
in the
understand
US.
how
are you
a lot of
needs?
Americans don't
Only
have
to be
electric
replied
kettles.
with good. You. Almost as a way of saying hi. Elsewhere people don't really know how to respond when a stranger asks how are you, how you doing, or how's it going. I did an art history course in Italy. What really stood out to me was the size of cars over there. Over here you have a mix of mid-sized sedans
And huge
pickup
trucks.
trucks/subs with the occasional compact car. Back when I went, compact cars here were incredibly scarce. Over there, it seemed like most everyone drove a compact car with the occasional sports car. I
that
remember
makes sense,
counting
right? The
6
roads are
pickup trucks
smaller?
for the 10 days I was there.
I don't know.
For comparison, I can name more than 6 people I know with a pickup
Yeah,
here.
the trucks are huge in the
Parenting
US.
roles falling almost exclusively on the mother. Going to Denmark was weird. Almost all
Interesting.
strollers were pushed by dads. There was billboards with dads snuggling with their babies. And they were much more loving and affectionate than I've ever seen. How colorful people dress. In pretty
thought it
much
was pretty
every
even in the
European
US
country
too,
I've been
but I guess not.
to, people dressed with really neutral colors without big logos or graphics. In America it's pretty common to have people dress in bright colors, or have a shirt with a cool graphic on it. Europeans dress pretty fashionable, but they aren't very expressive when it comes to clothing. Huge amounts of personal space. I know everywhere has the concept of a personal bubble, but for Americans, it's more like a personal iron curtain. Now I can't unsee the lengths that Americans will go to be far away from other people. Next time you get on an elevator or a metro in America, look at how perfectly spaced out everyone is standing to maximize the distance to other
I feel
people.
like some New Zealanders should learn how to do that. Just saying. I hate when people get up in my space, for sure. And it's like, do you not have any kind of like indication that, you know, like there's all this space over there and you want to stand right next to me? Oh, that was really interesting. Oh, this is funny. The first comment on here, I like how Americans seem extra concerned about personal space but try to have conversations with strangers. But it's so different, right? You still want your space. You still want your space. That was a cool video. This is exactly why I spend like honestly hours every single night on Reddit. I'm addicted to Reddit, you guys. You get so many different perspectives from real people, right? And individual experiences. So interesting. You know, a lot of these things are exactly what I love about America and Americans. A lot of people kind of hate on Americans, I guess, for being like loud or whatever. I love it. I love how Americans smile, they're friendly, they spark up conversation, and I admire that, you know what I mean? I'm definitely more reserved when I leave the house. Like, I'm very reserved. You know, I'm a New Zealander, so that's kind of how we do things here. It's kind of the opposite of what it's like in America. In America, you guys, well, a lot of I don't want to like say all Americans, but generally Americans, you know, like the video said, start up conversations with people in the supermarket or something like that. But here in New Zealand, you just keep to yourself. You don't really talk to anyone else, you know. Of course it happens, but not as common as in the US. So yeah, I really admire that. Like, I wish I could do that. So maybe I'll learn one day, but I definitely noticed that in the States for sure. Like, even at Walmart or Target or wherever I was at, someone would just start talking to me and I'd be like, oh shit, you're talking to me, you know? And it's something that I could definitely get used to. I love that a lot. I love talking, right? But I'm a little shy. I'm a little shy sometimes. And I'm not one to start up a conversation, but I feel like the more I experience that environment, I potentially could become that as well, which would be awesome for me because I admire that a lot. What else? It says that Americans are loud. I agree with that. I feel like some Americans generally are really loud with their speaking, but again, I don't really mind that. I like it, you know. I like it. It's refreshing. I love watching these kinds of videos, you guys. I find it so interesting. You know, I love all the quirks and whatnot about American culture. Of course, culture is different from state to state, city to city even, but just generally seeing these differences and culture differences between my country, New Zealand, and America is just super interesting. I've always been intrigued by it for sure, ever since I was younger. So one day I can experience living there myself, potentially in a few years, and I'll potentially become someone who's super confident with starting conversations with people in the supermarket. We'll see, stay tuned. You'll have to wait 3 years or so though before it happens. No, that was a cool video, you guys. I'm gonna link the original video down below if you want to go check out that video or other ones. Thank you guys so much for tuning in with me today. By the way, if you didn't know, I do have a Twitch channel where I go live 4 times a week at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Hopefully catch you over there. I'll link that down below as well. I love you guys. Thank you so much again for tuning in, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye guys. Mwah.